According to the 2020 National Electrical Code, there isn't a direct requirement to bond junction boxes when you're making a joint inside them. However, let's break down some related sections that might be causing confusion. NEC Section 250.148b, titled Bonding of Enclosures, states that metal enclosures for electrical equipment must be bonded together to provide an effective electrical connection. Now, junction boxes definitely fall under the category of electrical equipment, so this section could be interpreted to mean that junction boxes need to be bonded to each other. But, and this is key, the code doesn't specifically say that you have to bond junction boxes when you're just making a joint inside. It's a subtle distinction, but an important one. Then there's NEC Section 358.20, which deals with the bonding of electrical metallic tubing or EMT conductors to enclosures. This section says that when you're using EMT with threaded couplings or connectors, the conductors need to be bonded to the EMT. There are two ways to accomplish this. Firstly, if the threaded couplings or connectors are made up tightly without any separate bonding jumper, then the requirement for bonding the conductors to the EMT is considered fulfilled. Secondly, you could use a bonding jumper that's not smaller than the grounding conductor specified in 250.122 to bond the conductors to the EMT. However, and this is another important point, this section doesn't require that the junction boxes themselves be bonded to the EMT. So, to reiterate, the NEC doesn't specifically mandate bonding junction boxes when you're making a joint inside. It's possible that the inspector is interpreting the code in a way that leads them to believe bonding is necessary, perhaps leaning on the general requirement for bonding metal enclosures. It's crucial to have a conversation with the inspector to understand their reasoning and how they're interpreting the code. It's also worth noting that local amendments to the NEC can exist, and these amendments can be stricter than the base NEC requirements. It's also possible your local jurisdiction has additional requirements. Be sure to consult with your local electrical authority to see what is enforced. Now let's dive deeper into the purpose of bonding and grounding in electrical systems, and how it relates to junction boxes and EMT. The primary goal of bonding and grounding is to create a low impedance path for fault current to flow back to the source. This lower impedance path facilitates the quick operation of overcurrent protective devices like circuit breakers or fuses, which in turn minimizes the risk of electrical shock and fire. When a fault occurs, meaning an unintentional connection between a live conductor and a metal part of the electrical system, the fault current flows through this bonding and grounding network. The lower the impedance of this path, the higher the fault current, and the faster the overcurrent device will trip, disconnecting the circuit and preventing a dangerous situation. Grounding refers to connecting the electrical system to the earth, typically through a grounding electrode system like a ground rod or a metal water pipe. Bonding, on the other hand, refers to connecting all the metal parts of the electrical system together to create a continuous electrical path. This includes metal conduits, enclosures, junction boxes, and equipment frames. Now, let's consider the role of EMT in this system. And, when properly installed with listed fittings, can serve as an equipment grounding conductor. This means that it can provide the lower impedance path for fault current to flow back to the source. However, it's crucial that all the connections in the EMT system are mechanically and electrically sound. This is why the NEC requires that threaded couplings and connectors be made up tight. When the connections are tight, they provide a reliable electrical connection between the sections of EMT, ensuring that the fault current can flow freely. If the connections are loose or corroded, the impedance of the path increases, which can slow down the operation of the overcurrent device and increase the risk of electrical shock or fire. Now let's go back to the junction box scenario. If the junction box is properly connected to the EMT system, and the EMT system is properly grounded, then the junction box itself is effectively grounded. In this case, simply making a joint inside the box might not necessitate additional bonding, as the box is already part of the grounded electrical system. However, if the connection between the junction box and the EMT is questionable, or if the EMT system itself is not properly grounded, then additional bonding might be necessary to ensure a safe and reliable electrical system. This is where the inspector's interpretation comes into play. They might be looking at the overall installation and determining that additional bonding is needed to ensure that the junction box is adequately grounded, even if the code doesn't explicitly require it for just making a joint. To further clarify the requirements, let's look at some related NEC sections. NEC section 250.4 A3 covers the bonding of electrical equipment. It states that normally non-current carrying metal parts of equipment shall be connected to an equipment grounding conductor. This section reinforces the importance of bonding all metal parts of the electrical system together to create a continuous ground path. NEC section 250.96 discusses the bonding of electrically conductive materials and other equipment. It requires that electrically conductive materials that are likely to become energized shall be bonded together to form an electrically conductive path that is low impedance. This section emphasizes the need to bond any metal parts that could potentially become energized during a fault. NEC section 314.40 covers the metal boxes, conduit bodies, and fittings and states that they shall be grounded in accordance with Article 250. This section confirms that metal junction boxes must be grounded, which is typically achieved through their connection to the grounded EMT system. So, considering all these code sections together, it's clear that the NEC emphasizes the importance of bonding and grounding all metal parts of the electrical system, including junction boxes. However, the specific requirement to bond a junction box when making a joint inside depends on the overall installation and whether the box is already adequately grounded through its connection to the EMT system. If the inspector believes that additional bonding is necessary to ensure a safe and reliable electrical system, it's important to discuss their concerns and work together to find a solution that meets the code requirements and addresses their concerns. It's also worth consulting with a qualified electrical engineer or another experienced electrician to get their opinion on the matter. They can assess the specific installation and provide guidance on the best way to ensure that the junction box is properly grounded and bonded. Remember, the goal is to create a safe and reliable electrical system that protects people and property from electrical hazards. While the NEC provides a set of minimum requirements, it's ultimately up to the installer and the inspector to ensure that the installation meets those requirements and provides an adequate level of safety. Now, let's consider some practical methods for bonding junction boxes and EMT. One common method is to use bonding bushings. Bonding bushings are special types of bushings that are designed to provide a reliable electrical connection between the conduit and the enclosure. They typically have a set screw that can be tightened down to make a solid connection. Another method is to use bonding jumpers. Bonding jumpers are short lengths of wire that are used to connect two metal parts together. They are typically connected using screws or other mechanical fasteners. When installing bonding jumpers, it's important to make sure that the connections are clean and tight. Any corrosion or loose connections can increase the impedance of a path and reduce its effectiveness. In addition to bonding bushings and bonding jumpers, there are also a variety of other types of bonding connectors available. These connectors are designed for specific applications and can provide a convenient and reliable way to bond metal parts together. When selecting bonding connectors, it's important to choose ones that are listed for the intended application and that are compatible with the materials being bonded. It's also important to follow the manufacturer's instructions when installing bonding connectors. Improper installation can reduce their effectiveness and create a safety hazard. Finally, it's important to remember that bonding is just one part of a complete grounding system. To ensure a safe and reliable electrical system, it's also important to properly ground the system to the earth. This is typically achieved through a grounding electrode system, such as a ground rod or a metal water pipe. The grounding electrode system should be installed in accordance with the NEC and should be regularly inspected to ensure that it is in good condition. In summary, while the NEC may not explicitly require bonding junction boxes when making a joint inside, it's essential to understand the principles of bonding and grounding and how they relate to the overall electrical system. By following the code requirements and using proper bonding methods, you can help ensure a safe and reliable electrical installation. Always consult with your local inspector and qualified professionals to clarify any ambiguities and ensure compliance with all applicable codes and regulations.